Hey, welcome to Film versus Movie, the podcast where we debate the cinema. Hey, I'm your co-host, Belson Delane Facey.
And my name's Chris Scher.
And on this podcast, we watch the films that have been slandered, desecrated, and left in the Caribbean by the cruise line of public opinion. And one of us tells you why it's actually pretty good.
And the other one tells you why it's a steaming pile of shit.
And before we get into today's film, this is our anniversary episode and also the end of our double feature face-off series. The last 3 episodes, Chris and I have been arguing one film against the other, and you guys voted to decide a winner. And so we have the results for our first round, where I argued for Pixels against Chris, who argued for Jack and Jill. You guys declared me the winner. And the second round, where I argued Daredevil against Chris arguing Ghost Rider, you guys also declared me the winner.
Yeah, you guys were wrong about that. Ghost Rider's so much better than Daredevil.
I'll be honest, I'm surprised I won that one. I would vote for Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I think it was all the press you were doing. You were talking mad shit. I don't even have a TikTok, Melon. You were saying I was murdering dogs. I'm going to apply to jobs later in my life, and they're going to be like, just to make sure you're over the dog murdering, right?
I didn't imply you murder dogs. I implied you kicked them, which is different.
Is it Bell?
Okay, well, obviously it only went so far because in the third round, where I argued Jurassic Park 3 against Chris arguing for Jurassic World Dominion, we tied. So if anyone didn't vote, I blame you for not getting the clean sweep.
Yep.
All right. And as promised, the loser will face punishment. So as punishment throughout this episode, Chris will be eating wings with progressively hotter sauces.
We're doing a hot ones thing.
Yeah. It should be a good one.
We're not very creative. I was suggesting like Belton could whip me or paddle me while it was going on. He was like, that seems a little weird, Chris.
I don't know. That feels like it doesn't play well on the podcast.
Probably not. It's a little too kinky.
All right. So on to today's film. Today, we are debating Speed 2 Cruise Control.
You know, like Speed 1 was on a bus, Speed 2 cruise ship.
Yeah, which I didn't realize this until I started trying to write out an opening for this episode. This is our 4th movie that takes place at sea. I was really running low on the openings.
Waterworld,
Ghost Ship, and Titanic 2.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, because originally I wrote something about like, it had something like Carnival Cruise in the opening, but now it's like, I'm pretty sure I used that for Ghost Ship.
Yeah, you did use that for Ghost Ship.
All right. So if you're not familiar with the first Speed movie, it's a fantastic action movie starring Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. Keanu Reeves plays a SWAT team member who is on a bus that has a bomb that goes off if the bus goes under 50 miles an hour. So Sandra Bullock, who's just a commuter, steps in to try and navigate this bus through LA rush hour. It's a fantastic action movie, made a ton of money at the box office. So obviously they wanted a sequel, and that's where Speed 2 comes in, where Annie takes a Caribbean cruise with her new boyfriend, who is not Keanu Reeves, and then it's hijacked by a former employee of the cruise line.
Yeah, they kind of flipped it on its head, where they're like, okay, instead of it having to keep above a certain speed, we're just trying to stop the ship altogether.
Yeah. Which I do kind of feel like the marketing failed this movie, because I've talked to people who were old enough to remember this movie coming out, and they all had the impression that it was the same concept as the original Speed, but on a boat, which makes no sense because there aren't as many obstacles in the open ocean that make it difficult to keep up that speed.
Yeah, you could conceivably just get like a boat trailing the cruise ship and tell people to jump off, and they'd have like 80% chance of living.
Yeah, because I mean, also the movie's tagline is I'm trying to look for it now, but it was something that definitely heavily implied, oh, this is gonna be the same thing. All right, but now it's time to go through the plot, and it's also time for Chris's first wing.
Okay, so this will be the bacon hot sauce. There's a little baby on the bottle. I don't think it's going to be very spicy.
Yeah, I feel like the baby on the bottle is just to like mock you for trying this.
Oh, that's a lot.
All right, how is it?
It's good. A little spicier than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, that's like level 1. So we're in for a good episode then.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so on to the plot. Annie, once again played by Sandra Bullock, fails her driving test again when she finds, and that's also when she finds out her boyfriend Alex is also a SWAT team agent. And like, I feel like it's important to mention during this whole driving test, like she's complaining about Jack, who is Keanu Reeves' character in the first film, and how horrible it was dating a SWAT team agent. And she's like, I'm glad my current boyfriend is just like a beach patrol guy.
Yeah, it was a little on the nose.
Yeah. It felt like just a quick way to write Keanu Reeves out the movie.
But wasn't he originally on to do it? Or he said he might do it, and then he was like, nah, this is going to suck.
Okay, so from what I read, is like they originally wrote this and fully planned for both Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock to come back. Then Keanu Reeves read the script and he's like, nah, I'm out. So honestly, a lot of it does feel like they just need a quick fix to explain why there's another character there. All right, so as an apology, Alex takes Annie on a cruise to the Caribbean, which like also important to mention. They've only been dating 7 months, and when they get on the cruise ship, you see a ring Alex has, like he's planning to propose.
Yeah, okay. Also, this dude's running around doing SWAT missions with cruise tickets like in his pocket.
That's what I didn't even think about.
Like he's just like, oh, put out. He's like, oh no, shit, where are the cruise tickets? Like,
yeah, it's like this was the 90s. Don't you can't just like pull those up on your phone. You need the physical tickets.
Okay, I also need to like point out that right before that scene where they're talking, he literally takes his motorcycle, drives past the ice cream truck they're pursuing, gets going towards it, slides his motorcycle under, and then takes the entire van and the driver off the side of the road and then holds him at gunpoint while being like, ow. Like, cruise tickets, unaffected. I don't know. Like,
I know. He could have at least like kept them in his locker back at the station or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have like thoughts on that I'll get to later. All right, but the first night of the cruise, Geiger, a former cruise line employee, hacks the ship computer, kills the captain, blows up 2 engines, and calls in a forced evacuation while he robs this vault on the ship that has a bunch of valuable jewels.
Okay, did they explain why they're just transporting like non-jewelry, just straight up diamonds?
They don't, because they also just show him off at dinner. Which is like, they're like, oh, check out the jewels, but it's like, it's like, why are you giving them away in like a raffle people have to pay for? Because that would make sense, but just to randomly have them there, like I don't know, you're kind of asking for someone to try to rob them.
Yeah, like it is a little. They're like, oh, these are the cruise ship jewels.
Yeah. So as Alex and Annie board the last lifeboat, basically Geiger gave the crew a set time for the evacuation, and that time expired. So the ship starts moving, forcing them to get back onto the ship because they can't safely evacuate in the lifeboats. And then Alex just accompanies the first officer once he realizes the ship's been hijacked, which I do feel like him realizing that is just jumping to conclusions, and he happened to be right.
Yeah, I don't know. He just ran into the captain's quarter and was just like, are there actually any fires? Did you like, he really, maybe it's like, he's a hammer, so everything is going to look like a nail kind of a situation.
I feel like this was written for Keanu Reeves' character, because I feel like that's the thing where it's like, I've been in this situation before and now I'm paranoid. That makes sense for him to say that. All right, so while Alex is doing that with the first officer, Annie and the ship's photographer rescue people trapped behind this hallway because of a fire door with a chainsaw.
Metal door with a chainsaw.
Yeah, because apparently they just conveniently have a chainsaw on the ship. I don't know. I don't have a boat.
What if a woman gives birth and they need to get through the ribcage?
It's like regular medical equipment or chainsaw.
Look, that's
like
what chainsaws were invented for.
It's like look, it's expensive to run a cruise line. We had to cut the budget somehow. All right, and so Alex then orders the navigator to flood the ship's deck in order to decelerate, but then he notices Drew, who's this small deaf child, on the monitor, because she was originally stuck in an elevator during the evacuation, and she climbed out of the elevator and is now there. So he goes to rescue Drew, but on his way, Alex holds Geiger at gunpoint, but Geiger escapes by, like, again, just hacking the ship and having a door closed in between them. And then he uses that as opportunity to explain his whole plan, how he designed the autopilot system on the ship, but then he was fired because he got sick on the job. So he's doing all this as revenge, and basically he's there to, like, steal diamonds, crash the ship, and so soon after, the crew realizes the ship's on course to crash into an ocean liner that I believe has oil on it, and Alex plans to stop it by jamming the propeller with a steel cable. So Geiger figures out what Alex is trying to do and manages to jam the cable release with Alex underwater and abducts Annie. And so he's like, great, Alex is dead, and just leaves the scene. Alex manages to stay alive and steer the ship away from the tanker just enough so that it's just fully grinding on this ship. Like, everyone survived, but there is damage to both fleets. But that's a problem for insurance. And so they don't crash the ship into the tanker, but they do go straight into a marina, crashing into the town.
That's a great scene.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like like you have, like, people running away. Like if you ever just search on YouTube boat fails, it felt like watching one of those videos.
Yeah, like that was one of the most expensive action scenes ever shot. Worth the money. Like, as much as the movie got bad reviews and didn't make any money, in terms of, like, putting together an action movie, they didn't waste that money.
Oh yeah, and there was that one part where like you see this real estate agent going through, like, a house trying to sell it to a couple, and then they see the ship coming, and they're just screaming. It's just like, man, it's like I would watch, like, just 20 minutes of, like, that, like
at one point, they're just running through the harbor, just tearing apart boats as they're headed towards land. And one of the passengers on the cruise ship is just like, we're just mowing them down. I'm like, hell yeah, we are. Good thing you didn't stop the ship, because this scene rocks.
Yeah. It's like, it's not like anyone on the ship has to pay for any of that. That's really an insurance problem.
So many people died, though.
Yeah.
I love every time that someone, like, had to hit the water, they just immediately got sucked under the ship. You're just like, oh, instant death.
Yeah.
They're hitting the prop.
Yeah. All right. And so Annie is still being abducted by Geiger. He's trying to get away with her and the diamonds. Alex just commandeers a speedboat to chase Geiger, who has Annie on a seaplane. He uses a harpoon to reel himself to the plane. He gets Annie. Geiger crashes into the oil tanker and it explodes. And on their return to shore, Alex proposes to Annie and she says yes. And that's all of Speed 2 Cruise Control. And as we get to production notes, Chris will take her second wing.
No, it's not bad either.
What if they're all like fairly tame until the very last one? Like it's just hitting a wall.
Oh, it'll be in my body.
Yeah. All right. So the production notes. So the original Speed was released in 1994. For apparently like leading up to the release, Speed was getting such good press that a month before it came out, they had already started planning a sequel. And
Really?
so yeah. And so director Jan de Bont was already contracted for a sequel, but Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock weren't. So and they originally hoped to bring the both of them back as a married couple since their characters got together at the end of the original Speed. And so while the process of brainstorming ideas for a sequel, de Bont apparently had a recurring nightmare of a cruise ship crashing into an island, and he used that as the inspiration for the movie. The script was written by Randall McCormick, whose next biggest credit is the anime movie Titan AE, and the original writer of Speed, Graham Yost, was not involved, and he would later go on to say he had 2 sequel ideas and the studio just did not approach him for the sequel.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. And so he did say what his 2 ideas were. The first one was a Vietnam era warship would explode if their ammunition touched water.
Was it like sinking?
Probably something like that. And his other one was a plane navigating the Andes Mountains was forced to fly at low altitude.
Okay, I like both of those.
Yeah, like both of those have a similar concept to the original Speed, but like actually adapted for different mediums.
Yep.
And so, as mentioned, they really hoped Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock would come back. Keanu Reeves was reportedly offered $12 million to come back to the sequel, but turned it down, saying he didn't like the script. He did do like a couple other movies while this was shooting, but years later he would say in an interview that Fox Studios put out propaganda on him that he turned it down just to tour with his band. What
do you want to make him seem really cool?
Yeah,
turning down bad gigs to go play rock and roll, like what?
Yeah, well, yeah, like I don't know how you get like people's like public opinion on your side with that. It's just like, oh yeah, he turned this down to just be a rock star.
Yeah, he's going out in the countryside to fuck. What a lame wad. He didn't do this terrible movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. No one wanted to do this. Sandra Bullock apparently, so she was also offered about this same to come back for this. She initially turned it down, but later agreed to it to secure financial backing for a different film called Hope Floats, which came out a year later.
I'm guessing I've never heard of it, so I'm imagining it didn't do well.
It made money at the box office. It did much better than Speed 2 at the box office.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, it probably didn't have $160 million budget.
No. Yeah, so So reportedly, the original budget for the film was $100 million. It reportedly blew up to $160 million. It's the director Debon he denied it went up that much. He did say they went over budget, but it was still he would say was like it was still close to 100 million, which definitely makes me think it wasn't. Yeah, because basically it went through trouble that shot up the budget, which also, as mentioned before, this is the fourth film we've done that takes place at sea. I think the one based on what we've read that has had the smoothest production was Titanic 2. Which, to be fair, a ghost ship, part of the complication
Sorry.
Yeah, but to be fair, a ghost ship, part of the complications with that was 9/11, which you can't blame them for that.
Yeah, well, I think just shooting at sea is hard.
Yeah, yeah, that's like a repeated thing. Shooting at sea is very hard. So some of the complications they ran into. So they filmed a few days in Miami boat hangar, and they apparently paid $55,000 in repairs to the hangar, and then the city of Miami sued them because they refused to pay like $35,000 in rental fees to the city, and they had like some settlement, and then production was delayed due to Hurricane Lily. And for the boat crashing into the town in the final act, instead of miniatures, the Bond insisted on creating a real town for the ship to crash into, and it cost $5 million to build that town. Then was destroyed by a hurricane, and it had to be rebuilt with hurricane-proof roofs.
Sorry. Okay, that's my bad.
Yeah, just hot sauce getting to you.
Yeah, a little bit.
So yeah, it is funny to think that they built this town. It's like it doesn't need to be functional. It just needs to be crashed into, and then a hurricane happens. Like it needs to be somewhat functional.
They're like, look, we could actually have people in these homes after.
Yeah, no. Apparently, they for like much of the run, they actually had their production offices in some of those buildings. Which is like, great use of space.
What island did they do it on?
I want to say somewhere St. Martin's the name, something like that, or that's the name of the town. I don't know. I forgot to take note of that. But yeah, like having the production offices out of those buildings, it kind of reminds me how like in Arrested Development they're just living in this model home. So it's like a lot of stuff in there isn't fully functional because it's just for show. All right, but the movie came out June 9th, 1997. Again, depending on who you ask, the budget is anywhere between $110 million and $165 million. It only made $164 million at the box office. It has a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 16% audience score, and a 3.9 out of 10 on IMDb. It was nominated for 8 Razzies that year, and only managed to win one of them for worst remake or sequel. And then apparently they really wanted to make Speed a franchise, so they had planned a video game for it, but after this did abysmal numbers at the box office, they canceled the video game.
What would the video game even have been like?
I don't know. I imagine it would be like a standard action game. Like I'm imagining something like Uncharted, but just on various modes of transportation.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Like, but like 1997, generally when they would do a movie game, it would be like you're following the exact plot, and I'm just like, none of this is really. He shoots a gun like twice. I don't know it.
Actually it's funny because I feel like the plot of this movie might be more suited to a video game than a movie, because it just feels like you're doing random things, so you could easily make those side quests.
Okay, yeah, that actually. maybe make it run for a little bit longer, like a couple days.
Yeah.
That could be, I'd play that.
Yeah. All right. Well, now it's time for our opening statements. I will be attacking this movie and Chris will be defending. And so I'll go first. And during my opening statement, Chris can have her third wing. What sauce is on that one?
Wasabi.
Mm.
This is really good. I'm gonna have to buy a bottle of that.
All right. I'm surprised the wasabi one isn't spicier.
It's on the second tier.
All right. All right. Speed 2 Cruise Control is such a poorly written action thriller. Its title is a feature designed to make your trip less exciting, and they still put it out. It's a rare sequel that not only takes away from established characters, but fails to make any of the new characters interesting enough to care about them for 2 hours. Forget Cruise Control. This story, it doesn't even come out of second gear. I know that's a car pun, but that's still better writing than most of this movie. Cruise Control, more like snooze control.
We didn't really think about this part of the podcast. Should I do it with my mouth full?
No, you should probably like chew and swallow first.
Okay, yeah. Speed 2 successfully builds upon the franchise by upping the stakes to new levels. What's bigger than a bus? A cruise ship. It can hold more people. What's worse than one bomb? Plenty of bombs. This action-packed adventure brings a new level of excitement to both Speed and the high seas.
Okay, I'm going to start with like probably my biggest thing about this. I feel like considering Annie is the only returning character from the original, they should have given her a lot more agency than they did.
Yeah, she kind of just sat there and was just like, no, don't do it. Don't. You can live a normal life.
Yeah, because I mean, in the first movie, her main function is just driving the bus, but that's still taking an active role in the plot. And then also in the first movie, she wasn't stupid. Like, she was less knowledgeable than Keanu Reeves' character because he's trained for these high risk situations and she's not. But in this movie, it does feel like she's just incompetent at times when she shouldn't be.
Yeah, they kind of gave her the damsel in distress role.
Yeah. Like opening with her like failing her driving test. I think it's a funny concept, but the fact we saw her drive a bus for 2 hours in the first movie is like, we know she's a better driver than this.
Yeah, she wasn't the best part of them, although like she looks good, and she kind of has that like. I feel like when she was doing action stuff, her character was a lot more interesting. But anytime she interacted with the protagonist, you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Which like her and Keanu Reeves had really good chemistry. I feel like they don't really do a good job establishing these two as a couple.
Well, like, yeah, but imagine you have PTSD from a terrorist incident. You break up with your boyfriend because he doesn't quit the SWAT team. Turns out your new boyfriend's on the SWAT team. Like, you too might be a little stressed out. It makes sense that her strength would break apart. Like, she's living out the exact same nightmare twice.
Yeah, I understand like like them going that way with her character, but like Alex does absolutely nothing to comfort her. All we learn about him is he lies, and then like honestly, the only thing he does for her is save her at the end. Until that point, he kind of dismisses her feelings a lot. Like, they've been dating for 7 months. She just found out he's been lying to her all this time, and then he's like, I'm still gonna propose.
That marriage isn't lasting like 10 days after getting back from the island.
Oh yeah, because also like the whole thing is like Annie kept repeating throughout the film is like, relationships formed in high stress situations don't last, and it's like this is literally the closest you guys have ever been. I would Annie, you need a therapist.
Look, okay, here's my thing about this movie. I don't think it deserves a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. By comparison, Cool as Ice, the Vanilla Ice centerpiece, has a 3% on Rotten Tomatoes. This isn't 1% better than Cool as Ice. It's like, if you take the fact that it's a speed movie out of it, it's just a all right action movie. It's not the greatest thing you've ever seen. The writing isn't like spectacular. The acting isn't out of this world, but you don't leave the theaters being like, that was the worst thing that I have ever seen. It was about the expectations they set going into the movie. And I don't think this is a terrible, I think it's like a solid movie. They have decent stakes. Even today, it's a little topical. Think about like AI and the fact that this movie is about an engineer who gets sick, kicked out of his job, and his job is automation kicking other people out of his jobs, and he goes a little mad and he takes over a cruise ship and he gets his payday. Like, I feel like give it 10 years and we're going to see stories like this all over the place.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not like cruise ship bombings, but like you'll see disgruntled people do extreme things.
Okay, honestly, that stuff you said about like the fact Geiger's job like took away jobs from other people, and then he got mad, he got fired. I do think that's a really interesting take and idea the film should have explored more. Except like the film, they were just like, we just need a bad guy with like just very simple bad guy motives.
Well, but like with Willem Dafoe's eyes, you can sell that.
Oh yeah, no.
Willem Dafoe killed it.
Oh yeah, Willem Dafoe in like any villain role is going to do very well. Like I would say he was the best part about this movie. But to your point that like it's fine as an action movie, I do think it's like, you know, mediocre or subpar as an action movie. But I do feel like because it is a franchise, I do think it's fair to compare it to the other one and like judge it on how it progresses the characters and is it bringing something new. Because also I did look up the tagline for it. It's rush hour hits the water, which very much implies this is the same thing at sea.
I like that implies something so different nowadays where you're like rush hour hits the water, you're like Chris Tucker on a boat. Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker on a boat, that sounds like a great movie. But yeah,
because I think like because you know Annie as a oh yeah, this is time for wing number 4.
Yeah, sorry, didn't
what flavor is that?
That's hot sauce from hell. It's got ghost peppers.
Ooh, but yeah, I do think it's fair to, you know, judge. Okay, how much has Annie progressed? Is this adding to her character, especially because it from an audience perspective, it is weird that. You know, she is the only character the audience is coming in having already connected with, and then she's not really the center of the story. You know, it really does feel like they wrote everything out for Keanu Reeves to come back in this, and when he declined, they just added a few fixes to justify him not being there instead of just changing the way the characters interact and dynamic like they should have, and just throws everything off.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. They didn't really put a lot of effort to kind of switch it from Keanu Reeves to a new character. I just think like this movie doesn't necessarily need that effort. It would have been a lot better with that effort, but I just think the action in this movie is kind of the centerpiece, and I think it's good enough that like you can kind of look past it.
Yeah, but okay. So while okay, so while I do think Keanu Reeves would have made this movie better, I don't think he was saved it. But I do think he could have like pulled off whatever they were doing with Alex's character a bit better, because at times it does feel like they made Alex so like ridiculous. It bordered on like propaganda satire. Like because the whole opening sequence where he's like chasing down like what was it, like an ice cream truck of drugs or something? Like it reminded me of the first scene from The Other Guys where they cause like $1 million worth of damage, and then they're like, all of this for a half pound of weed, which Maine states consider a misdemeanor. Like, that's what it felt like, and he kept doing these things like when he walked onto to the ship in the Caribbean, where the crew, I believe they were from somewhere in Europe or Australia, and he's like LAPD, and they're like, we don't know what that means. Like like that feels like they're making fun of the police genre, except if they also want us to take him seriously.
Yeah, they literally, after he does the whole like sliding under the ice cream truck, they're like, we recovered a few computers. And she was like, why are you risking your life for this? And he's like, it's important, but like a few computers isn't that important. I get that's like a fair point, but also just to counter a little bit, they drove a cruise ship through an entire fucking port, Bellin. It's cool. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess I expect less of an action movie, or maybe I went in with the right expectations of just kind of like, this is going to be mediocre.
I mean, if they just want to do like a simple action movie, like I'm fine with focusing on the action, but considering like we have one major character we've seen from the other movie, I would like to see him progress. Like I feel like the way I would done this movie, either Annie goes on the given we don't have Keanu Reeves. Either Annie goes on the cruise ship with her friends as just a girls trip, and then like all that goes down, and she's like, "Oh shit, not again!" And then she just knows how to handle herself a bit better. Or you keep Alex, and throughout the plot, she realizes Alex is just a bad SWAT agent, and so then she has to step up and actually save the day.
Yeah, I'd watch both those movies. I don't know if that would have played in the 90s, though.
Oh, yeah.
No romantic interest, just Sandra Bullock being a badass. Like, I'd eat it up. I just don't know if that would have actually sold in the 90s.
They should have pushed boundaries.
Look, it's Speed 2, Bellin. They weren't trying to push boundaries with this movie.
Like they could have advertised it as a standard action movie where Alex saves a day, and then people go in and are just like, actually, that's a lot more fun. Sort of like Big Trouble in Little China.
I haven't seen that movie.
Okay, but basically, it satirizes the white savior trope.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because also like I feel like if they were gonna get rid of Keanu Reeves anyway, like they could have had Annie and Alex be together longer than 7 months, because it feels like that's a short time to like one discover your boyfriend's been lying to you, and instantly after that get engaged.
Yes, 7 months is a little early for marriage.
Yeah, because also like how you date someone for 7 months and never think they're like a beach patrol guy, and never be like, oh, I'm gonna meet you for lunch or anything like that.
Yeah, I guess you'd be like, I guess you can make excuses. You're like, oh no, the beach is closed. She's like, the beach has been closed for 6 months now.
Don't they live in LA?
Okay, you know what scene I really liked? You know, the guy sets up a grenade. He traps him behind fire doors. He sets off a bomb so that Alex is stuck in a room full of smoke. Then he ties like a little grenade to the door, so if you open it, a string will pull the pin out. And so then Sandra Bullock shows up and she's like, Alex, like, and she's like, there's a grenade. And he's like, what's the pin? Like, what's the number? And so she's like reading off numbers off the grenade. And he's like, oh, what you have to do is tie what do you call the squeezy part of the grenade?
I'm not sure what it's called.
You got to tie the like safe handle and then pull the pin out. But I'm just like, I could figure that out looking at a grenade.
Yeah, it's weird because the instructions are like, isn't that just like the common knowledge of how grenades work? It's not like it's a bomb where you like have to like specially hack into it.
Like she could have literally just held the. It's gonna drive me fucking nuts. We need to come up with a name for it. Just the shovel, like I don't know. You have to hold the handle, pull it out, and then just throw it down the hallway. Boom, problem solved.
Yeah. Also, like that door window that he already cracked, he could have like continued to try to break through it.
Yeah. What do you think about the scene where he jumps into the water with a scuba tank and gets like within 15 feet of the propeller?
Okay, that I'm willing to like let go of the movie logic.
That's the one that bothered me.
Theoretically, obviously he should have been like sucked into the propeller and just died. But honestly, there was already dumb stuff that happened in the movie where it's like, I'm willing to let it go. Like keep in mind, this whole thing started because Geiger hacked the computer system so that it showed fires had started. No one was actually like, I was just there. There was no fire.
No, didn't he set off like smoke bombs or something? I remember at one point someone's like, this is sulfur smoke.
Maybe he did. Either way, there were no fires.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and then okay, one thing I will also say, like, it feels like for all the side characters, they went for this like colorful cast of characters. They weren't like that colorful or interesting.
I feel like that's a good representation of a cruise, though.
I mean, understandable, but like that couple with the deaf daughter, like that, the dad's entire personality was just like body shaming his daughter, and the mom, I feel like, did nothing, and then every member of the crew, their whole thing was just like, we're trying to get tips, like, and they would blatantly say that. Yeah,
I like the Irish guy. I think he was the navigator.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I think at some point I assumed all the crew members were from the same place, but then they all had different accents. And I guess I just never put it together. It's like, oh, they're from different places.
Yeah. They kind of like they introduced to all the characters within 5 minutes of being on the boat, which is a very bizarre thing. They're like, here's the sorry. They're like, here's the 5 people that you're going to deal with for the rest of them. Also, the captain dying scene where Willem Dafoe's like swinging like a light that's on a very fixed position. Like all the captain has to do is take a step back, not dead. But every single time Willem Dafoe's like, I'm going to blow up the ship, he's like, what are you doing? And like takes a step forward.
Honestly, that scene had me dying because like, honestly, his whole plan felt convoluted for no reason. He like trying to kill the captain. It's like, why was your plan to like catch the captain right there? Like anyone could have walked by and saw you. Like it would have made more sense if he like dressed up as like one of the like crew service members and just stole a key card, went to his room, and then got him to sleep. You could still have like the fight where he like goes through a window or something.
Yeah.
it's so like the fact like he planned to just run into the captain out in the open, that was just funny to me.
Okay, also he's like, you took my job. I automated your job and then you took my job. And the captain's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, and you don't even know. And it's just like, of course he doesn't know.
See, like it's stuff like that where it's like I thought that was funny, and it's like they do that a bit with like Alex's character, but they don't go all the way with it. I wish they did. Like honestly, if I were to write this movie the entire time, anytime Alex said anything, there would just be someone there who's like, that sounds like the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. And they just like send Alex on like the equivalent of like giving him a coloring book to keep him distracted.
Okay, if I were gonna do this movie, you know how I'd do it?
How?
I would do the cruise ship. I'd set it over the span of like 3 months though. And I'd be like, you have to get this cruise ship from the Caribbean into Lake Michigan. And it can't stop. And you have to somehow navigate like locks and stuff without stopping. And it would be from the engineer's point of view. Like it would be less about like cops and like action and more about just nerds being like, well, like, could you flood could you like the gate to get boats up to a higher depth in rivers? Could we get that going fast enough so a cruise ship couldn't stop in it? And they're like, oh, we don't know. I don't know.
I feel like that actually would be the equivalent of speed on water. Like having to giving them like actual obstacles to navigate. Which the thing is with speed on a bus, I think because like a lot of people like have an idea of what driving is like, even if you haven't driven a bus or that large of a vehicle before, you understand like what traffic is like and know what obstacles would be in the way. I don't think enough people know about navigating a ship like that to like know all these obstacles. So I'm imagining they have the SWAT agent on there, like he has to consult all these people to figure out what's going on.
Well, theoretically, like there is no obstacles. You're in the biggest fucking, it's not even about the people on the boat. Like they'll be fine. Just put them up against a wall so they don't like smash into things when you eventually hit something. That's kind of the issue. I feel now I'm talking negatively about the movie, but like I feel like that's the issue with the cruise ship. You're just a 2-ton, you can't move at all. You're just going forward at a relative speed that no one has any control over. But all right, we need to get into 3 things.
Yep, our 3 concessions and also Chris's 5th wing.
You're gonna join me on the last one?
Yeah, in solidarity.
These haven't been as hot as I expected. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah, next year we gotta get a sponsor so they can just make this really tough.
This is bad.
All right, so my first concession, as mentioned before, I think Willem Dafoe was great in this movie. Hands down, my favorite part. He was so good. I want to believe this movie got him the role of the Green Goblin in Spider-Man. Like I literally like to imagine when Sam Raimi pitched his idea for Spider-Man, that pitch ended with Sony executives going, so who do you have in mind for actors who could play these characters? And his immediate sentence after that was, have you ever seen Speed 2 Cruise Control?
Well, was Willem Dafoe a big name by that point?
I don't think he was huge. I know like he had some film roles, but not like a household name.
I think another issue with this movie is anytime I see Willem Dafoe now, I'm just thinking like giant dick. Like a dick so big that they have to use prosthetics so it's not distracting.
Honestly, like he might just put that rumor out himself. He just talked to his management team one day he was like, I want people to know my dick is so big they had to make it look smaller.
All right. The writing isn't very good for this movie. It's just not a well-written movie. Ooh, that one's a little spicy. That's okay. Now it's getting to like a little, like at one point they're when the first bombs go off and they blow one of the engines, a giant light fixture nearly hits Sandra Bullock, and all she says is like, "Oh man, there's my vacation." So cheesy. Like they literally wrote it. He had the cruise ship tickets in his, he's just always got like the thing he needs to deal with his relationship inside of his pants. I don't know. It's not a very well-written movie.
Yeah. It's like he got his pants from a genie and they're like, whenever you're having girl troubles, just reach into your pocket. Mm-hmm. And so like at the beginning of the movie, he's like, I wanted this to be a surprise, but I got you. Let's see here, cruise tickets.
He's like, condom.
All right. My second concession, the whole crash sequence was fantastic. That should have been a longer part of the movie. Like honestly, I would have given this movie more money to just make a bigger town for them to crash into.
I would have loved it if the ship just like didn't stop and just went all the way through the movie keeps going. It's a Zack Snyder special. You find out it's 4 hours long and it's in slow motion.
No, it's like I'm just imagining like there's a part where it's like almost like a corny car chase where they're all the passengers are just pointing out things that are about to crash, and it's like, oh no, we're about to hit that beach town bar smash. Like, oh no, we're about to hit the bank.
Oh my baby. Yeah, that would have been. This movie should have been an hour long with an hour-long crash. Or it should have carried over to a different cruise ship. Like they crash into one cruise ship and then that cruise ship starts crashing.
just like new impulse or something.
The acting isn't very good. I forget who played the Alex. Jason Patrick.
Yes.
Other than Willem Dafoe, it's just kind of like cheesy 90s action movie.
Yeah.
Where they're like, like, I don't know. It wasn't very well acted, but I think also there wasn't much like to act on other than the like shock of what's going on around them.
Yeah. Cause again, I feel like Annie and Alex, they needed a stronger foundation for their relationship to really bounce off of.
Yeah.
All right, and my final concession. A lot of the comments like or jokes they make about basically Alex being outside of his jurisdiction as just a member of the LAPD were really funny, and I wish they had more of them. Like anytime he pulled that card and someone corrected him, that actually had me laughing. Like at the end when he just commandeers the guy's speedboat and he's like LAPD, I need your boat. The guy's like, this is the Caribbean. What are you doing here?
All right. The premise of Speed is if the driver of a vehicle drop below a certain speed, an explosion goes off. It's not just the fact that it's happening in the setting of a vehicle. That's the fatal flaw of Speed 2. And the issue with it being a Speed movie is it doesn't follow the rules of Speed. Like we talked about this earlier in the episode, but like you need a condition as part of like what's going on. If that you're like a condition that or a punishment in terms of like that drives everything forward. You can't just be like, oh, this is happening on a boat, therefore it's a Speed movie. You need it to be like, oh, well, if this cruise ship if everyone doesn't have like 80% of a good time, the whole entire ship explodes. It needs something to kind of like divert the plot away from the whatever the driving factor of everything going on is.
Yeah, because I do think one thing about Speed is because like the constant threat was simply being on the bus. It did give the characters time to really connect and develop to a point. You know, Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock are a believable pair at the end of the movie, and I feel like this movie doesn't really do that. I also feel like throughout the 80s and 90s, a lot of action movies came out where studios were like, we're looking for the next Die Hard. So a lot of stuff is just like Die Hard in different settings. If Speed is Die Hard on a bus, I feel like here they just tried to do Die Hard on a boat, which apparently like one of the writers of one of the Die Hard sequels does claim they stole like their idea for the movie for this one.
Die Hard on a boat would have been sick. Although I don't know, it depends which one it's replacing. The last Die Hard was so okay. I'm getting off track here, Bellin. Let's finish this movie up.
All right.
Closing statement.
Closing statements and the final sauce.
It's called spontaneous combustion.
Yeah. Also, I should mention we're recording this episode during a heat wave, so we're really going all in for your entertainment.
Yeah, I'm going to a climbing gym after this, so which our producer won't come to.
Yeah, it's got a weird aftertaste. That tastes like a combination of like jerk sauce and curry sauce.
Tastes like pennies to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a friend that has like the full official Hot One set, and he's like, the last one is just a chemical burn. This is not a chemical burn. There's actual flavor there. Closing statements. Speed 2.
Oh.
Speed 2 was a very mediocre action movie that failed to live up to the original. It sadly missed Keanu Reeves, but even he could not save this shipwreck of a story. It sorely missed developed characters and a thrilling plot line, and honestly, it deserved to sink on arrival.
You want the other chocolate milk?
I think I can survive till the end.
My lips hurt, yeah. All right. Speed 2, Cruise Control. God damn. Speed 2, Cruise Control is a solid movie if you eliminate it from the Speed series and it was just Cruise Control. It's got a solid premise and decent pacing for an action movie. It is 3 out of 5 stars without being a Speed movie. Plus, it's got the greatest fucking ending out of any action movie ever. They drove a fucking boat through a town. That's sick, guys. It's awesome. So, yeah.
All right. And that has been our anniversary episode. Thank you all for listening in to 1 year of Film versus Movie, and special shout out to anyone who voted for any of our double feature face-offs.
My lips are on fire.
Like, I feel like mine are still functional, but it's gonna be worse the longer I wait.